that's kind of a foreboding thing to see. You can see that's where we looked in from before. That's kind of not really a nice thing to see. It's like a giant mouth there with all that stuff in it. We also have some new enemies here, which are kind of interesting. These things are called cursed bokoblins. It reanimates after death, it fears pure shiny items, and will startle at the sight of a sacred shield, which is pretty interesting. And it's able to reanimate purely through hatred and its attachment to outlandish underpants. Well, I guess everyone has their thing. So yeah, as I said, these guys are actually scared of the sacred shield. If you kind of hold it up by doing a shield bash and walk towards them, you can see you really have to be facing them, but once you do that, they'll kind of back away and not bother you. Now, the thing with these guys, though, is that they will not die until you finish them with a finishing blow. So you have to like knock them down like that. You can see otherwise they'll just get right back up, and always will do that until you actually finish them off. And they don't actually hit you straight away, but they will latch onto you. So these things are pretty much like the Skyward Sword version of the Redeads from previous Zelda games, although nowhere really near as scary as some of the previous versions. So it can be a little bit tricky if there are a lot of them around. You may get grabbed a couple times. I believe it is possible to finish off 2 in the time that they're knocked down, but you have to time it out like just right. And these guys also have the possibility to drop a new material that we haven't yet seen. It's kind of rare, though. You don't really see it too much. But hopefully I'll get one at some point during this. Yeah, nothing there. So, you know, might as well take those guys out just to make things easier. Obviously, this stuff you don't really want to step in. But if you do, you can make your way back out. But you can see we have kind of these dark particles here, and I'm swinging and I can't use my items, so this is basically the cursed status. It keeps you from doing much of anything for a while, so obviously you really want to avoid that, especially if there are enemies around. That would cause you quite a lot of harm. Alright, so we got a couple more of these guys to finish off. The good news is they are very slow and really easy to shake off if they grab you, so they really shouldn't be doing any damage to you at all. Okay, so we can continue our way along the side path here. We've got some skulls to break if we want. Sometimes they got cool stuff inside them. There are some keys over that way, but we're actually going to ignore that for the time being. We're going to hop out over here first. Again, make sure just to land on the lily pad. You don't want to step in that purple stuff. Oh, like that. Sometimes it just happens anyway. But thankfully, we're not really in any danger here, so it doesn't really matter. However, you can see there are a couple things kind of around here. Looks like we can whip over there, but there's a big rock in the way, so we're going to have to find something to do about that. But if we get out our hook beetle real quick and we kind of look up here, you can see there are actually holes in the eyes. So if we send the hook beetle up in here, there's going to be something interesting inside. Kind of a sharp turn here. And there's a crystal switch. So doing that will stop the flow through there, which kind of reveals a path. We can get there already, but we're going to need that because we're actually going to have to send the hook beetle out through that path. So that's why we have to do that first. So now once we hop back across, this time we're going to have to deal with all these keys. There we go. Not too bad. You can pretty much just keep swinging your sword. There's also another goddess wall here, so we get to see my atrocious drawing skills once again. This time there's not really anything that we need. So I'll probably just go for the rupees, even though I don't really need that either. I pretty much could have just skipped this. So let's see how we can do this time. Oh, that was terrible. I didn't get like any of the edges. Hopefully it'll figure it out. Yeah, see, it figured it out anyway, so I kind of end up not really caring too much about making it look good. Alright, so at this point we can, of course, read this stone tablet if we want, and this will give us the head that the gemstone is deep within the eye of that structure. So since we've already taken care of that, because we are experienced Zelda players here, we can grab this bomb, and then of course we're going to use this to blow up the big rock that was in our way before. So we'll just go right into it. You can drop it, but I prefer to just kind of kamikaze right into it. There we go, and now we get to go back and hop across the lily pads once again. You do have to do that a couple times, but this is the last time, so that's good news. Oh, he didn't jump. I don't know what happened there. Alright, so we're going to have to wait a little bit for this to wear off before we can use the whip. There we are. Okay. It doesn't take too long, so it's really not that big of a deal. So now we can whip across here, get onto this platform, and you can see we've got a couple of these rotating columns with vines on them. The first one we want to just pretty much climb on top of here, and we can grab onto the second one from here. Now we've got a couple different places we can drop off here. I think we want to ignore the first one and make our way over here to the second one, because we do eventually want to get on that giant kind of fast rotating column, but as you can see right now it would just lead us straight into spikes, so we're gonna have to do something about that first. Now we can dash jump across here, climb up, and once we get to this point we can see there's another lever, so you can pretty much guess what this is going to do. Yes, it's going to kind of rotate all of the columns the opposite way this time. So we can use this to get across to the other side. Yeah, it's pretty quick, always like that. Got a couple more of these guys to take out, really no big deal. Yeah, I'm standing by each of them to see if I can get that that material we haven't seen yet. Nope, okay, nothing yet. But don't worry, there's still plenty more where they came from. Okay, so at this point we can hop onto this thing, and we're pretty much just going to ride it as far to the left, I guess, as we can. We'll hit a wall here, so let's just go ahead and drop off. And once we get to this point, we can climb up, and this is basically just the other side of that platform we were on before, so we can now reverse the flow of the columns yet again. This time, thankfully, there's no scene, so we can just get right to it. And this time, ride this column back around to the right. Hopefully we don't run out of stamina along the way. There we go. So drop off at the other side. This is going to be the exit. So that part can be a little bit confusing with all the rotation and having to reverse it a whole lot, but it's really not too bad. Alright, so now this is a rather ominous looking area. There's just kind of this texture of bones, which is a little kind of weird. I don't know. I guess there's not really a much better way to do that, though. You can obviously tell it's just a floor texture, though. And there's this really obvious bright rope here that's going to lead us back up, so we can climb on this and get going. But once we do, of course, we're going to be hounded by these things yet again. I like to let most of them start climbing the rope and then drop down. You can see you're pretty much going to drop down right in the middle of them, so it can be a bit of a pain. But there, if you can get off a spin attack, you can kind of clear your way out. And we are going to take these things out. It turns out you can actually farm these guys here if you want, if you're trying to get one of those materials I was talking about. So just make sure we're kind of out of the way a bit. If you just get to one side, most of them will kind of leave you alone for a bit, so that'll give you some time alone with the other ones. So I find the best way is just to use a spin attack and then a finishing blow. While you're using that final attack, you will recover your stamina, so you can pretty much just repeat this combo indefinitely. Otherwise, it takes like 5 or 6 normal sword strikes to take him down, so it's really much faster to just do it this way. There we go, there's one. Alright, so let's go ahead and pick that up, and then we can get out of here. This is an evil crystal. This is, like I said before, the first chance you can actually get one of these. So we can go ahead and pop that in there. And like I said before, you can also farm these here. As you can tell, it's a somewhat rare drop. It doesn't happen too often. You could, however, bring along the treasure medal, and that would help you out a bit. But if you want to respawn these guys, you can just hop back on the rope, and as you can see, all of them will respawn again. So these guys are going to chase us up. We are going to leave this time. We're not going to drop back down. Once they hop on you, you can just shake it a lot to break free. It's a little annoying and takes a little bit of time, but it's not too bad. And yes, of course, they do climb faster than you. So as long as you just keep shaking, I mean, like I said before, they really shouldn't be doing any damage to you. So once you reach high enough, you go through the light and we end up back in the main area again. And this is actually the very first room. So yeah, I mean, we do a lot of stuff in here. There's quite a lot of doors. So from here we can read this stone tablet. It says, return the stone giant to its original form, descend below the earth again. So there we'll find the key. Cool. So might as well get this amber relic here. There we go, got quite a few of those, so that's good. And now at this point, we can pull this wall switch here, and this will kind of create a shortcut back. This may look familiar. This is actually the lever we pulled to kind of bring the statue down in the first place. And the cool thing about these levers is that you can actually pull them the other way as well, like we did with the rotating columns before. So we're going to kind of follow the stone tablet's instructions. It said to return the stone giant to its original form and then go back down. So that's what we're going to do. So it's already back to its original form, and now we can head back down. And of course, if you remember before, lowering that statue did actually cover up the boss keys. So obviously, if we go back down now after raising it again, that will be open to us. So if you want to create a shortcut back here, we can pull this valve and make our way back up. It's not really that useful, but, you know, might as well get it, I guess. So now once we drop down, this is the area we were in before, remember? Giant face. So we can now drop down here and pick up the boss key. And the boss key for this dungeon is a pretty cool little statue. It's the Blessed Idol. It looks like it's supposed to inspire gratitude. Also looks like the stone statue on the upper floor, of course. So once we do this, these guys are going to show up, and as you can see, the statue is going to start falling again. So don't waste any time, just run past them and climb up. You've got quite a lot of time. That's super easy. It's not quite as intense as the boulder from the other fireplace before. But that is instant death if you get crushed, so I guess watch out for that. Might not be too bad of an idea to save, but it's really not too bad. So now that we have the boss key and we're inside this middle structure here, we are basically at the end of the dungeon. If you remember, the boss door is actually right at the top of this little structure. So it can be kind of a pain to turn around and get out of these things because you seem to swim so slowly. But one thing you can do is sort of spin around. Oh, okay, well, maybe not. I thought you could spin around while you were going up, but I guess it doesn't work that way. I guess something you, well, I was going to say, I guess something you could do is like turn around and just walk backwards into it, but we also have this little thing here. Look for the key that lies beneath the earth. That one's not very helpful. And of course, Fi is going to chime in. I believe the key is the key required to unlock the device ahead of us. Really? Fi is just completely and utterly useless. Alright, so obviously we can't get up here. There are stairs leading up. But we do want to insert the statue we got into this. And this one's pretty simple. Just put the base of it like straight in. And there you go. It'll line up. So that one's really easy to figure out. And then our way upward is clear. So we're just about at the end. Got one more little thing to do before we take on the boss. We got to pull each of these valves up. There's two over here, and there's also two on the other side. And there we are. Once we do that, the platform will raise. And we get to see the full face of this guy. And yes, he has a really long neck, apparently. I don't know how that works, but it does. And you can see there's all the doors that we could have entered before. And now we are raised up to the very top of this area. So, yep, there's the ceiling. That's the top. So we can refill on health here if we want. There's also an amber relic. Might as well pick it up. And a bird statue, so you can guess what's going to be beyond this little stairway here. So, let's get to it. Oh, not this guy again. He seems to be everywhere. Yeah, I think you're more persistent than I am. Yeah, so here, at this point, we get a little clue. I think this is the first time that we've kind of seen this. But he's saying he's trying to find clues that'll help him revive the Demon King. So I think this is really one of the first indications we get that Girahim may not actually be kind of the big ultimate evil that we're going here. I don't know, but we'll have to see. So yeah, this is pretty good dialogue here. Talking about irksome gadflies and stuff. So yeah, apparently he's too busy to deal with us to even really to give us a speech. So he's going to fade away and we'll get to meet the boss. And yes, this is Coloctus, the ancient automaton and boss of the Ancient Cistern. Now, this is a pretty interesting fight. I actually kind of like this boss. The only problem with it is there's a lot of waiting around. You're going to wait for this attack, obviously use the whip, and we can kind of pull off one of its arms by pulling at one of its joints. So once it does the other arm, I'm actually getting a pretty good pattern here, so it's going pretty quickly. Now, at this point, it's going to do one more attack. Well, I got too close to it, so it's going to try to knock me away. But there's one more attack we're waiting for where it's going to slam down with both of its two remaining arms that aren't holding weapons. This is where the waiting around part, and also it likes to throw those things. So just do a couple side hops and you'll generally be fine. They're not too hard to avoid. They do kind of spin around back at you, though, so you have to watch out a bit. So we just have to wait for it to do the right attack here. And it's not wanting to. Go a little closer, maybe that will kind of inspire it. There we go. So once it raises both of those arms up, we can use the whip again, and now its core is completely unprotected, so we can just start going to town on it. There we go, get enough hits in, and eventually it will protect itself. Reform both of its arms, and then you just repeat the pattern. So this part really isn't too tough. It's just all the waiting around that can be a little bit of a pain. Pretty cool music, though. I think this one, it fits pretty well. You know, we got this big kind of ancient giant boss here, so it's kind of cool. This is actually a really easy fight, and it's pretty simple to figure out. Once you see it do the attack that you can actually, you know, hurt it with, it's pretty obvious what you have to do. Oh well, whatever. I don't even care at this point, really. You can get hearts in the second phase of this battle. I don't know if I'm just too far away for it or something. I'm not sure. I'm going to try to get a little closer. There we go. I don't know if you can really influence its attacks based on your position. I know if you get too close, it will always do kind of that clearing out attack with both of those blades, but see, sometimes if you get close, it still just does the little projectile attack, so I don't really know if you can influence it or not. But I'd imagine if you were too far away, it might not do that slamming attack. So there we go. Now we just gotta wait for it to get out of the way, arm. So now we just gotta wait for it to do it with both of its arms so we can expose the core. And unfortunately, no, you can't just swing at it and, and pull the arms away or anything. It's kind of a pain. Dude, you're not even gonna hit me with that. What are you doing? It's a stare down. Who's gonna win? There we go. Alright, so let's pull off both the arms yet again. Then run forward. There we go. And then once you see both of those blades break, that means you finish the first phase. Thankfully, it usually only takes 2 if you do it correctly. And now we're going to move into phase 2. So this time he's gotten serious, and now he's made himself mobile and given himself 6 giant swords. So again, the strategy is pretty much the same. You just wait for him to do the right attack. And once he does that, you can see it very obviously points out what you need to do. We're going to have to pick up the giant sword here. This part's pretty fun. And it's one of the reasons why I like this boss. So you do that to kind of cut its legs out from under it, and then you just go to town on this big central part. This is where the motion controls can get a little strange because you have such a giant sword that takes so long to swing. So you kind of just have to time it out where you'll attack as soon as possible. Right, and once it does this again, we just have to get out of the way. Now with this attack, you can make it actually break these columns here, and you can see there are hearts inside. So once you do that, you just wait for it to stop, and then you can run through and pick up the hearts. Alright, and now we just wait for it to do the right attack. This one, it just summons these guys. You can do a spin attack and take them out. You don't even have to do a finishing blow, so no real problems there. Alright, so now we pick up the giant sword once again and just repeat the process. This is always really fun, though. And if you do this right, I'm pretty sure you can also finish this phase in 2 passes as well. However, I was a little bit slow. I kind of missed the timing on the first part, so now it's doing its crazy sword attack, so we just stand back. This boss really isn't, you know, it doesn't have the potential to kill you, really, especially since you should have quite a few hearts at this point. So we're just going to wait for it. It'll probably summon those, it'll probably summon those guys again. So a couple spin attacks, no problem. Right, now we're going to get to finish it off. So pick up the giant sword one more time. You do have to be somewhat quick about this because he can still attack afterwards. So. Yeah, there we go. I just needed one more hit, so probably could have finished it in 2, but it's always fun to swing around that giant sword, so I'm not complaining too much. Alright, so there we go. He has been defeated. However, you can still pick up the swords, which is kind of cool. I think you may be able to, yeah, you can also destroy the columns with these if you need more health. Thankfully, you don't seem to take damage from the falling debris. Oh, you do, actually, so I guess that can sort of cancel out. So, yeah, we don't need to recover anymore, though. You unfortunately can't, like, take it through doors or anything, so it's just, I guess, a way to refill your health, even though at this point you get the heart container and it'd be fully replenished anyway, but... Oh, so yeah, there we go. It's a pretty fun boss. It's too bad it's kind of plagued with just like waiting around for so long, but it's still pretty neat at the same time. Alright, so you can obviously see Furor's symbol on the door there. And once we go up here, we've got one of these things to hit. Alright, so yes, Fi did shoot fire at us, but it was for a good reason. Furor's flames improved our sword. It's longer and sharp enough to do twice as much damage. Now that's what I was looking for. Yeah, and we also get that little Triforce marking, which I'm not really sure why, because we didn't get a piece of the Triforce, but oh well, whatever. Alright, so now that we've acquired the first flame, we can of course return to the Isle of Songs, learn the next melody, and repeat the whole process over again. Of course. Alright, so that's going to do it for the Ancient Cistern. It's not too bad of a dungeon, but you can definitely tell it is a little bit more complicated than the ones that came before it. So this, I guess, is the game taking one glove off at least. The other one may still be on, but anyway, this is a pretty good opportunity to go ahead, save, and quit. So I'm going to do that, and next time we will return to the Isle of Songs, maybe take care of a couple other side quests along the way. So until then, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.